The brake pedal went straight to the floor. There was no resistance, no hydraulic pressure, nothing. I pumped it again, once, twice. The heavy steel of my 1970 Chevelle SS was barreling down Devil's Elbow curve at 50 miles an hour, and I was holding a useless piece of rubber under my boot. The guardrail was rushing toward me, filling the windshield. Beyond that rail was a 100-foot drop into the ravine. Panic is a funny thing. For most people, it freezes them. But I've been a mechanic for 45 years. I know machines better than I know people. I know that when hydraulics fail, you rely on friction. I didn't scream. I grabbed the emergency brake lever. I didn't yank it. That would send the rear end spinning out. I feathered it, fighting the steering wheel with my other hand, listening to the tires scream against the asphalt. The smell of burning rubber filled the cabin. The bumper kissed the guardrail, a metallic shriek that vibrated through my teeth, but the car slowed. It drifted sideways, tires smoking, and came to a stop 3 inches from the edge of the cliff. I sat there for a long minute. The engine was idling with that low, heavy rumble of a 454 big block. My heart was the only thing moving faster than the pistons. I looked at the brake pedal. It was limp. A catastrophic failure on a master cylinder I had rebuilt myself 3 weeks ago. Impossible. I didn't call a tow truck. I limped the car back to my shop, O'Malley's Auto, using only the transmission to slow down. I pulled it onto Bay 1 and racked it up on the lift. I grabbed my flashlight. I walked under the chassis. I didn't need a forensic team to tell me what happened. The rear brake line hadn't burst from pressure. It hadn't rusted out. It had been cut. The copper line ended in a clean, pinched angle. It was the specific mark made by a pair of snap-on side cutters, my side cutters. I lowered the flashlight. I looked through the glass wall of the office overlooking the shop floor. My stepson, Jason, was sitting there. He was kicked back in my leather chair, laughing on his cell phone, checking his watch. He looked like a man waiting for a phone call, maybe a call from the police telling him a classic car had gone off Devil's Elbow. "You missed," I whispered to the cold steel of the lift. "You missed, you little bastard." I lowered the car. I walked into the office, wiping the grease from my hands with a rag. Jason jumped when he saw me. He hung up the phone instantly. "Dad?" he asked, his voice cracking. I thought you were gone for the day." "Car trouble," I said, tossing the oily rag onto his desk. "Brakes went out." His face went pale. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask what happened. He just stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. And in that moment, I knew. The boy I raised, the boy I promised his dying mother I would protect, had just tried to kill me. But he made a mistake. He tried to kill a mechanic with a machine. And now I was going to take him apart, piece by piece. If you hate traitors and believe that blood isn't always thicker than water, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get under the hood of this crime. My name is Mike O'Malley. They call me Wrench around this town because I'm rarely seen without one. I own O'Malley's Auto, a 3-bay shop on the corner of Main and 4th. I built this place from a dirt lot. I've survived 3 recessions, the death of American steel, and the rise of computerized engines that I still hate. I'm an honest man. If you need an alternator, I sell you an alternator. I don't sell you a battery and a belt you don't need. That's why people trust me. I wish I had been as careful with my family as I was with my business. 2 years ago, I lost Linda, my wife. She was the best part of me. She had a laugh that could make you forget you owed the IRS money. She had a son from her first marriage, Jason. Jason was 12 when I met Linda. He was a soft kid, preferred video games to dirt bikes, never wanted to learn how to change his own oil. But I loved Linda, so I loved Jason. I put a roof over his head. I paid for his college, business degree, of course. He didn't want to get his hands dirty. When Linda got sick, she made me promise. "Take care of him, Mike," she said, squeezing my hand in the hospital room. "He's not strong like you. He needs direction. Promise me you'll give him a place." I promised, and a promise to the dead is a sacred thing.
So when Jason graduated and couldn't find a suitable job in corporate America, I brought him on as the shop manager. He was supposed to handle the books, the ordering, and the customers. It let me stay in the bay, turning wrenches, doing what I loved. It was a mistake from day one. Jason hated the smell of oil. He hated the noise of the impact guns. He showed up at 10 a.m. in polo shirts and expensive sneakers, complaining about the heat. But I kept him on, for Linda. Then the developers started circling. Our shop sits on 2 acres of prime downtown real estate. A big company from Chicago wanted to build luxury condos. They offered me $2 million. I turned in flat. "I'm not selling, Jason," I told him last month. "This shop is my life. It's my legacy. Besides, what would the guys do? Big Bear? Old Stan? They rely on us." Jason had looked at me with pure disgust. "It's $2 million, Mike. You're 62. Take the money and move to Florida. You're being selfish." "It's not about money," I said, ending the conversation. After that, the vibe changed. Jason stopped complaining. He started coming in early. He started organizing the back office. He smiled more. I thought maybe he was finally growing up. I thought maybe he accepted my decision. I was a fool. He wasn't accepting it. He was calculating it. Yesterday morning, I came in early to work on the Chevelle. I went to my toolbox, a pristine red snap-on chest I've had for 30 years. Every tool has a silhouette. If a wrench is missing, I know it instantly. My side cutters were missing, the red-handled ones. "Jason," I yelled toward the office, "did you borrow my snips?" He poked his head out. "No, why would I touch your stuff?" "They're missing," I grumbled. "Probably Stan moved them," he shrugged. "You're getting forgetful, Mike. You lost your glasses last week, too. Maybe it's time to slow down." I didn't think much of it then. Tools walk away in a busy shop. It happens. I didn't realize that my forgetfulness was part of a script he was writing. And I certainly didn't realize that my missing cutters were currently in his pocket, waiting for me to put the Chevelle on the lift for my Sunday drive. I looked at him now through the office glass. He was typing furiously on his computer. He looked nervous. He kept glancing at the clock. If I had checked his browser history right then, I would have seen the search for mechanic accident statistics. But I didn't need a search engine. I needed evidence, and I knew exactly where to start looking. I went back out to the shop floor. I didn't yell. I didn't throw a wrench through the office window, even though every fiber of my being wanted to. Instead, I went back to the Chevelle. I raised the lift again. I took out my phone and took 5 high-resolution photos of the severed brake line. Then I grabbed a flare nut wrench and removed the damaged section entirely. I wrapped the copper tubing in a clean shop rag and shoved it deep into my coveralls. That was evidence A. Jason was watching me. I could feel his eyes on my back through the glass partition. He was waiting for me to panic. He was waiting for me to say, "The line burst. I must have messed up the installation." If I admitted fault, his narrative was set. Mike O'Malley is getting old. He's dangerous. He can't even fix his own car without almost killing himself. I walked over to the wash sink and started scrubbing my hands with pumice. The grit felt grounding. The door to the waiting room chimed. A heavy set of boots thudded against the concrete floor. "Hey, Wrench," a deep voice boomed. "I thought you were taking the lady out for a spin today." It was Big Bear. His real name is Arthur, but nobody calls him that. He's 6'5", bearded, and looks like a Viking who decided to ride a Harley. Bear has been bringing his bikes to me for 30 years. He drove trucks for 2 decades before his knees gave out. Now he mostly rides and drinks coffee in my waiting room. "Hey, Wrench," I drowned my hands to work. "Changed my mind, Bear. Heard a rattle. Wanted to double-check the suspension." Bear walked over to the bay. He squinted at the Chevelle. He didn't know much about hydraulics, but he knew people. He looked at me, then up at the office window where Jason was pretending to work. He leaned in close. "You okay, Mike?" he asked quietly. "You look like you saw a reaper." "I'm fine," I said, drying my hands. "Just tired." "Uh-huh," Bear grunted. He glanced at the office again. "The kid's been weird lately, Mike. I came in yesterday to pay for the oil change on the Softail. He tried to charge me double, said labor rates went up. I told him to check with you. He got all sweaty, said it was a system error." I frowned. I hadn't raised my rates in 3 years. He tried to stiff you? I think he's skimming, Mike. Bear crossed his massive arms. I wasn't going to say nothing. Figure family business is family business. But if you look rattled, maybe it's time to check the books. I nodded. Bear was right. But it was worse than skimming. Skimming is stealing $20 from the register. Cutting a brake line is trying to steal a life. Thanks, Bear, I said. I'll handle it. But do me a favor. Keep an eye out. If you see him moving stuff around the shop when I'm not here, let me know. You got it, brother.
Bear patted my shoulder. It felt like being hit by a side of beef. Bear left, the rumble of his Harley fading down Main Street. I walked into the office. Jason didn't look up from his screen. "I need the inventory logs, Jason," I said. He froze. "Inventory? Why? It's Sunday." "Because my snap-on cutters are missing." I lied. "And Bear just told me there was a billing error yesterday. I want to make sure we aren't bleeding parts." "I told you, Mike." He swiveled his chair around, putting on a mask of exasperated concern. "You lose things. You probably left the cutters in a car last week. And the billing thing? The software glitched. You need to upgrade this place, man. We're running on Windows 95 mentality here." "Just print the logs, Jason," I ordered. "I can't." He stood up. "The server is down for maintenance. I started the update an hour ago. It won't be back up until tomorrow." He was lying. I could see the lights on the modem blinking steadily. He was stonewalling me. He wanted me out of the shop. He wanted me home, shaken, doubting my own sanity. "Fine," I said. "I'm going home. I'll see you tomorrow." "Take the truck, Bad," he smiled, and for a second I saw the ghost of his mother in his face. It sickened me. "Rest up. You look shaky." I drove my truck home, but I didn't rest. As soon as I got inside, I went straight to the guest room closet. I pulled down an old cardboard box labeled VCR/cables. See, Jason is right about one thing. I am old school. He installed a fancy digital security system in the shop 6 months ago. Ring cameras, cloud storage, app access. He controls the passwords. He thinks that's the only set of eyes in the building. But there's something he forgot. Back in 2005, after a break-in, I installed a hardwired CCTV camera right above Bay 1. It feeds directly to an old VCR unit tucked away in the loft storage, buried behind boxes of air filters. It doesn't connect to the internet, it doesn't use Wi-Fi, it just records on a 24-hour loop to a tape. Jason never goes into the loft because it's dusty and full of spiders. I knew the tape would overwrite itself every 24 hours. The incident happened last night. If I didn't get that tape before 8 p.m. tonight, the footage of him cutting my brakes would be erased forever. But wait, stop. I need you to understand how dangerous this was. Jason had just tried to kill me. He failed. That meant he was desperate. If I went back to the shop tonight to get that tape, and he was there, he wouldn't use snips this time. He'd use a tire iron. I wasn't walking into a crime scene. I was walking into a trap. I waited until dark. I parked my truck 3 blocks away behind the abandoned mill. I walked to the shop through the alleyways, gripping a heavy pipe wrench in my jacket pocket. The shop was dark. The closed sign was up, but I saw a faint blue light flickering in the office window. Jason was still there, and he wasn't alone. I crept up to the side door, the one that sticks if you don't know how to jiggle the handle. I cracked it open. The smell of oil and stale coffee hit me. I moved silently through the tire racks, making my way toward the loft ladder. Voices drifted out from the office. "Didn't die, Vince. The car didn't go over." That was Jason. He sounded panicked. "I don't care about the car. I care about my 50 grand. You said the sale goes through next week. You said the old man would be out of the picture." "He will be," Jason pleaded. "Just give me another few days. He's shaken up. I'm convincing him he's senile. I'll get him to sign the power of attorney. Then we sell the land. I pay you double. Just put the gun away, Vince." Gun. I froze on the ladder. Jason wasn't just in debt. He was in debt to loan sharks. violent ones. That's why he cut the line. He wasn't killing me for greed. He was killing me to save his own skin. I knew I had to get up that ladder, swap the tape, and get out without making a sound. One squeak of a floorboard, and Vince would solve Jason's problem for him by putting a bullet in me. I took a step up. The rung groaned. The voices in the office stopped instantly. "What was that?" Vince asked. "Probably rats," Jason stammered. "The place is crawling with them. Like I said, old building." I stopped breathing. I was clinging to the rusted steel ladder, 20 feet above the concrete floor, obscured only by the shadows of the tire racks. Through the crack in the doorframe, I saw a silhouette step out of the office. It was a mountain of a man, Vince. He swept a flashlight beam across the shop floor. The light danced over the tool chests, the hydraulic lifts, and finally, the ladder. I pressed myself flat against the rungs. I prayed to whatever saints look after mechanics that I hadn't disturbed the dust. The beam lingered on the ladder for a heartbeat. Then it moved on. "Fix your rat problem," Vince growled, turning back to Jason, "and fix your cash flow problem. 2 days, kid, or I take the deed from your stepfather's cold, dead hands myself." The office door slammed shut. I heard heavy steps exit the front, followed by the roar of an engine peeling away. Jason was alone. I heard the sound of glass shattering. He had thrown something. "Damn it!" he screamed. I stayed frozen on the ladder for another 10 minutes. I watched as my stepson, the boy I taught to throw a baseball, paced around the office like a caged animal. He opened the floor safe hidden under the desk rug. I saw him stuff a stack of papers into a gym bag. Then he grabbed his keys and ran out the back door, locking it behind him. The shop fell silent. I climbed the rest of the way up to the loft. My knees were protesting, but my hands were steady. I navigated through the spider webs to the back corner. The old VCR was still humming, its red REC light a steady beacon in the dark. It was recording the current feed, an empty shop. I hit eject. The machine whirred and spat out a T-120 cassette. It was warm to the touch. This tape held the last 24 hours of footage. If my calculations were correct, the incident with the Chevelle happened at 6:30 a.m. yesterday. That was near the beginning of the tape. I slipped the cassette in my jacket. I climbed down. I didn't go home. I couldn't risk Jason being at the house, waiting to check on me. I went to Big Bear's place at midnight. When I banged on his door at midnight, he answered with a baseball bat in one hand and a pit bull at his heel. "Werench," he lowered the bat. "You look like you just broke out of prison." "I need your VCR, Bear," I said, "and maybe a whiskey." 10 minutes later, we were sitting in his living room. The grain on the TV screen was bad, tracking lines flickering at the bottom, but the image was undeniable. 06:14 a.m. The shop was empty. 06:22 a.m. A figure walked onto the screen. It was Jason. He wasn't wearing his usual polo shirt. He was wearing coveralls. He looked around, checking the digital cameras mounted on the walls. Then he pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. The digital camera LEDs went dark. He had disabled the system. He thought he was invisible. But the analog camera in the loft kept rolling. On the grainy tape, I watched him walk over to my Chevelle. He pulled a red tool out of his pocket, my snap-on cutters. He slid under the rear chassis. He was under there for 12 seconds. When he rolled out, he wiped the cutters on his pant leg and put them back in his pocket. He looked at the car one last time, patted the fender, and walked back to the office. "That son of a bitch," Bear whispered. He crushed the beer can in his hand. He patted the fender like he was saying goodbye. "He was saying goodbye to me," I said. The whiskey tasted like ash. "He owes money, Bear. A guy named Vince, loan shark." "Vince Moretti." Bear nodded grimly. "Bad news. If Jason owes him 50 large, he's desperate. And a desperate man doesn't stop because he missed once." "He's going to try again," I said. "He has a buyer for the land. He needs the deed transfer. That's why he's pushing the senility angle. If he can get power of attorney, he sells the shop, pays Vince, and throws me in a home. "So what's the play?" Bear asked. "We take this tape to the cops?" "Not yet." I stood up. "This proves he cut the line. But if I arrest him now, the developers walk away, and the bank might foreclose if Jason leveraged the business for his debts without me knowing. I need to see exactly how deep this goes. I need to know who the buyer is." I slept on Bear's couch, or rather, I lay there with one eye open, gripping the pipe wrench. Monday morning, I walked into the shop at 8 a.m. sharp. Jason was already there. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Dark circles under his eyes, jittery. "Dad," he sounded surprised, "I thought you were taking the week off after the scare." "I can't sit at home," I grunted, limping slightly, exaggerating the old man frailty. "But you're right, Jason. My hands, they aren't steady. Maybe it's time we talk about the future." Jason's eyes lit up. It was predatory. "Really? You mean retirement?" "Maybe." I leaned against the counter, looking defeated. "I'm just tired, son." "That's smart." He came around the desk, putting on a hand of his shoulder. "Actually, I have some paperwork drawn up. Just standard stuff. Allows me to handle the vendors while you rest. It's in the safe." "Show."
I froze. Judge Reynolds was the most powerful man in the county. He drove a pristine 2022 Cadillac CT6. If I touched that car and something went wrong, my reputation and my freedom would be gone instantly. "I thought Stan was handling the domestics," I said. "Stan called in sick," Jason lied. "It's just us. Go ahead, Dad. Show me you've still got the touch." He was challenging me, or maybe he was setting a trap. I walked out to Bay 2. The Cadillac was up on the lift. I walked under it. I checked the oil pan, the suspension. Everything looked brand new. I couldn't find a source for a knock. Then I saw it. The oil drain plug. It was cross-threaded. It wasn't seated right. It was hanging by maybe 2 threads. If the judge drove this car off the lot, that plug would vibrate loose in 5 miles. The engine would dump all its oil on the highway. The motor would seize. At highway speeds, that could be fatal. But even if it wasn't, a seized engine on a judge's car because of a mechanic's error? Mike O'Malley would be ruined. Suit for negligence. Competency hearing. It would be the final nail in the coffin of my career. "You didn't verify the work, Dad!" I could already hear Jason screaming it in front of the customers. I reached up and tightened the plug properly with my wrench. Then I checked the filter. It was loose too. Sabotage, pure and simple. I fixed it. I documented it with my phone. I lowered the car, but as I wiped my hands, I realized something. Jason had sent me out here to distract me. He was in the office, alone, printing paperwork. I walked back quietly. The office door was ajar. Jason wasn't printing anything. He was on the phone, his back to me. "Yeah, 2 p.m., Jason whispered. "Bring the check. He's ready to sign. No, he won't read it. He's out of it. We do the deal today." I stepped back into the shadows. He wasn't waiting for a lawyer. He was bringing the developer here, today. He was going to try to trick me into signing the deed of sale under the guise of vendor paperwork. I needed to see that contract. I needed to see exactly what he was promising them. I waited until he went to the bathroom. I slipped into the office. I didn't go for the safe. I went for his gym bag, the one he had stuffed the papers into last night. It was under the desk. I unzipped it. Underneath a sweaty towel was a thick binder. Western Heights Development Group Purchase Agreement. I flipped to the back page. My signature was already there. It was a forgery, a bad one, but next to it was a date. Transfer effective upon death or incapacitation of owner. He didn't just want me retired. He needed me incapacitated. Today. I heard the toilet flush. I zipped the bag and slid it back. I stepped out of the office just as Jason walked in. "Everything good?" he asked. "Car's ready," I said. "Oil change was Tricky, but I handled it. Great. Hey, some people are coming by at 2, just friends. Stick around, we can have that signing. I'll be here, I said. I walked back to the shop floor. I pulled out my phone and texted Big Bear. Code red, 2 p.m., bring the boys. Jason wanted a show. I was going to give him one, but he wasn't the ringmaster of this circus. The clock on the workshop wall ticked toward 1 p.m. The air in the garage felt heavy, charged with the kind of static you feel right before a lightning strike. Jason was in the office, pacing. I was on the floor, pretending to organize a tool cart near Bay 4. Bay 4 is the heavy-duty lift. It's a 10-ton rotary model used for trucks and commercial vans. Currently, it was holding up an old Ford F-250 waiting for a transmission drop. "Dad?" Jason's voice cut through the shop noise. He was standing in the doorway. "Why don't you take a break? Go grab a sandwich at the diner. The clients will be here at 2. "I'm not hungry," I grunted, keeping my back to him. "I'll just rest in the break room." "Suit yourself." He checked his watch again. "I have to run to the bank for the notary seal. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Don't touch anything, okay? Your hands look bad today." He wasn't going to the bank. He was going to meet Vince, the loan shark, to give him an update. Or maybe he just needed to build an alibi. I didn't care. As soon as his Audi peeled out of the lot, I moved. I didn't go to the break room. I signaled Big Bear, who was parked across the street in his beat-up Chevy pickup. There flashed his lights once. He was watching the front. I stayed inside, locking the bay doors, but leaving the office unlocked. I needed to know one last thing. Why was he so insistent on me being in the shop today? If he wanted me to sign papers, he could have brought them to the house. Why here? Why now? I walked over to the lift in Bay 4. It was the only one with a vehicle on it. I looked at the hydraulic control box. It looked normal. I looked at the safety latches, the heavy steel teeth that click into place to stop the lift from falling if the hydraulics fail. They were engaged, but then I looked closer at the release lever mechanism. Someone had loosened the tension nut on the safety release cable. It was backed off almost the entire way. If anyone pulled that lever to lower the truck even an inch, the safeties wouldn't re-engage. The truck would be resting entirely on hydraulic pressure. Then I saw the hydraulic line at the base of the piston. It was slick with fluid. I ran my finger over the coupling. It wasn't tight. It was finger loose. Under load, that coupling would blow. The trap was simple and brutal. At 2 p.m., Jason would ask me to demonstrate something on the truck, maybe lower it to check the tires for the clients. I would pull the release lever. The safeties would fail because of the loose cable. The hydraulic pressure would blow the loose line. The lift wouldn't lower slowly. It would drop. 4 tons of American steel would freefall on whoever was standing underneath. Accidental death due to equipment failure. And who was the master mechanic responsible for maintaining the equipment? Mike the Senile O'Malley. It was the perfect murder. He'd kill me, blame my incompetence, and collect the insurance payout plus the land deal. I tightened the hydraulic coupling just enough so it wouldn't leak, but kept the safety cable loose. I needed the trap to look dangerous, but I wasn't going to let it kill me. I had a different use for it. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Bear. Code 7, here at 2 p.m. Bring the boys. Jason wanted a show. I was going to give him one, but he wasn't the ringmaster of this circus. The clock on the workshop wall ticked toward 1 p.m. The air in the garage felt heavy, charged with the kind of static you feel right before a lightning strike. Jason was in the office, pacing. I was on the floor, pretending to organize a tool cart near Bay 4. Bay 4 is the heavy-duty lift. It's a 10-ton rotary model used for trucks and commercial vans. Currently, it was holding up an old Ford F-250 waiting for a transmission drop. "Dad?" Jason's voice cut through the shop noise. He was standing in the doorway. "Why don't you take a break? Go grab a sandwich at the diner. The clients will be here at 2.
"I'm not hungry," I grunted, keeping my back to him. "I'll just rest in the break room." "Suit yourself." He checked his watch again. "I have to run to the bank for the notary seal. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Don't touch anything, okay? Your hands look bad today." He wasn't going to the bank. He was going to meet Vince, the loan shark, to give him an update. Or maybe he just needed to build an alibi. I didn't care. As soon as his Audi peeled out of the lot, I moved. I didn't go to the break room. I signaled Big Bear, who was parked across the street in his beat-up Chevy pickup. Bear flashed his lights once. He was watching the front. I stayed inside, locking the bay doors, but leaving the office unlocked. I needed to know one last thing. Why was he so insistent on me being in the shop today? If he wanted me to sign papers, he could have brought them to the house. Why here? Why now? I walked over to the lift in Bay 4. It was the only one with a vehicle on it. I looked at the hydraulic control box. It looked normal. I looked at the safety latches, the heavy steel teeth that click into place to stop the lift from falling if the hydraulics fail. They were engaged, but then I looked closer at the release lever mechanism. Someone had loosened the tension nut on the safety release cable. It was backed off almost the entire way. If anyone pulled that lever to lower the truck even an inch, the safeties wouldn't re-engage. The truck would be resting entirely on hydraulic pressure. Then I saw the hydraulic line at the base of the piston. It was slick with fluid. I ran my finger over the coupling. It wasn't tight. It was finger loose. Under load, that coupling would blow. The trap was simple and brutal. At 2 p.m., Jason would ask me to demonstrate something on the truck, maybe lower it to check the tires for the clients. I would pull the release lever. The safeties would fail because of the loose cable. The hydraulic pressure would blow the loose line. The lift wouldn't lower slowly. It would drop. 4 tons of American steel would free fall on whoever was standing underneath. Accidental death due to equipment failure. And who was the...
Jason sighed. "Show them the truck, Dad, then sign the paper." He thought I was walking to my grave. "Actually, Jason," I stepped back, holding the pen like a dagger. "My knees are killing me. Why don't you bring it down? You're the manager now. Show these gentlemen you know how to operate the machinery you're selling." Jason froze. The color drained from his face faster than oil from a pan. He looked at the lift. He knew the safety was disabled. He knew the line was loose. If he pulled that lever and he was standing anywhere near the crush zone, or if the truck tipped... he stammered, I don't want to get my suit dirty." "It's a push button, son," I said, my voice dropping the tremble. "It's clean. Go ahead. Stand under it and show them the undercarriage. Show them how safe it is." Vince stepped forward. He sensed something was wrong. "Just lower the truck, kid. Let's get this done." Jason looked at Vince. He looked at me. He looked at the truck hovering 6 feet in the air. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "No," he whispered. "Why not?" I asked. I wasn't playing the confused old man anymore. I stood up straight. I wiped the grease from my hands. "Is there something wrong with the lift, Jason? Or is there something wrong with you?" "Dad, stop it." He backed away. "You're having an episode." "Am I?" I reached into my coveralls pocket. "Or maybe I'm just finally seeing clearly." I pulled out the severed brake line wrapped in a rag. I tossed it onto the workbench, right on top of the contract. It landed with a heavy metallic thud. "What is that?" the developer asked. "That," I said, pointing at Jason, "is why my stepson is about to go to prison." Jason's eyes darted to the back door, but he wasn't going anywhere. "It's just scrap metal," Jason stammered, wiping sweat from his upper lip. "He keeps old parts. He's a hoarder. Look at him. He's carrying trash around in his pocket. Does that look like a sane man to you?" The developer shifted uncomfortably in his Italian loafers. He looked at the brake line on the table. He looked at Jason's frantic eyes. Then he started to close his briefcase. Perhaps we should reschedule, the developer said, when things are settled. No, Jason slammed his hand on the table. We are not rescheduling. He's signing right now. It's just a tactic, don't you see? He's manipulative. He turned to me, his voice dropping to a hiss. Dad, stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. You're ruining the deal. Sign the paper, go home. Don't make me call the psych ward. I'm not going to the psych ward, Jason. I leaned in close, letting him smell the grease and the old coffee on my breath. And I'm not going to the funeral home either. That was your plan for Sunday, wasn't it? The Chevelle goes off the cliff, I die in a fiery wreck, you cry at the funeral, sell the shop on Monday, and pay off Vince before he breaks your kneecaps. Vince pushed himself off the wall. The toothpick dropped from his mouth. He walked toward the table. He moved with the heavy, inevitable momentum of a bulldozer. You talk too much, old man, Vince growled. He put a heavy hand on my shoulder. It wasn't a friendly pat. It was a vice grip, digging into the trapezius muscle. The kid owes me money, a lot of it. This shop is the collateral. Now you can sign the paper and walk out of here, or you can have another accident right here on the shop floor. Slips and falls happen all the time. It was a naked threat. The developer gasped. The lawyer backed away toward the door, clutching his chest. Jason looked terrified, but he didn't stop Vince. He stood back, letting the shark do his dirty work. That hurt more than the brake line. He was willing to let a stranger hurt me right in front of him. You heard him, Mike, Jason said, his voice trembling. Just sign it. Nobody has to get hurt. Just let it go. I can't do that. I looked at Vince's hand on my shoulder, because if I sign that paper, I lose everything. And if I don't sign it, you kill me. Is that the deal? Smart guy, Vince sneered. Now pick up the pen. Stop. If I were a younger man, maybe I would have swung at him. But Vince was 6'3" and 100 pounds heavier than me. Fighting him hand to hand was suicide. But I didn't need to beat him. I just needed to even the odds. I won't sign, I said, and neither will Jason, because the real owner of this shop just walked in the back door. Vince frowned. What are you talking about? Crash! The rear steel security door didn't open. It flew off its hinges with a deafening boom, kicking up a cloud of dust. Vince spun around, releasing my shoulder. Big Bear stepped into the light. He wasn't alone. Behind him were 3 other bikers from the local chapter, men with arms like tree trunks and faces that had seen more asphalt fights than Sunday dinners. Bear was holding a 3-foot length of breaker bar pipe. He slapped it into his open palm. Swack, swack. Problem, wrench? Bear asked, his voice rumbling like an idling V-twin engine. Vince looked at his 2 suited companions, the developer and lawyer, who were now cowering in the corner. He looked at his own odds, 4 bikers against 1 loan shark. The math wasn't good. This is private business, Vince barked, reaching for his waistband. It became public when you put hands on my mechanic, Bear said. He took a step forward. The other bikers fanned out, blocking the exits. Now you can take your hand off your gun, or I can feed it to you. Vince hesitated. He was a predator, but he wasn't stupid. He slowly raised his empty hands. But Jason, however, panicked. He bolted for the office door, trying to get to the safe for a weapon. Stay where you are, I shouted. Jason froze. He turned to me, his face twisted in a snarl. You think this changes anything? So you have some muscle. Great. It doesn't prove anything. It's your word against mine. The brake line? Circumstantial. You have no proof I touched that car. He looked at the developer, trying to salvage the con. He's crazy. He staged all this. He cut the line himself to frame me because he hates that I'm selling the place. He's a bitter, jealous old man. You want proof? I walked over to the shop computer, the one mounted on the diagnostic cart, the one you never check because you're scared of spiders. You think you're smart, Jason. You wiped the cloud servers. You deleted the ring footage. You thought because I use a flip phone, I don't know what delete all means. "I wiped the digital system," he smirked. "There is no footage." "You wiped the digital system," I corrected. "You forgot about the analog backup." I hit a button on the cart. I had wired the VCR output to the diagnostic monitor before the meeting. The screen flickered. Tracking lines rolled. Then the black and white image stabilized. "What is that?" Jason whispered. "That," I said, pointing to the screen, "is a VHS tape. It records from the old camera in the loft, the one you never check because you're scared of spiders." On the screen, a timestamp appeared. Sunday, 06:22 a.m. The grainy figure of Jason walked into the frame. He was looking around at the digital cameras, smiling as he disabled them with his phone. Then he walked to the Chevelle. The entire room watched in silence. We watched Jason pull the red cutters from his pocket. We watched him slide under the chassis. We watched the 12 seconds that almost ended my life. And we watched him pat the fender of the car like he was burying a pet. "No," Jason breathed. "No, no, no." The developer stood up straight. He adjusted his tie. "Mr. O'Malley," he said to me, his voice icy, "I believe the deal is off. Western Heights Development does not do business with criminals. And you, young man, should probably call a very good lawyer." The developer and his lawyer ran for the door. Bear stepped aside to let them pass. Now it was just us, me, Jason, and Vince. Vince looked at the screen, then he looked at Jason. The realization hit him. The shop wasn't getting sold. His money wasn't coming. Jason had lied to him, too. "You told me it was a sure thing," he said softly. He turned on Jason. The look in his eyes was far more terrifying than the gun in his waistband. "You told me the old man was signing today?" He tricked me," Jason shrieked, backing into the workbench. "Vince, please, I can fix this. I just need time." "You're out of time, kid." Vince reached for him. "Bear, don't let him kill him. I need him for the police." But before Bear could move, Jason did something stupid. He didn't run from Vince. He grabbed the release lever of the lift in Bay 4. He yanked it, thinking he could use the falling truck as a distraction or a weapon. He forgot I had disabled the safety lock, but he also forgot he was standing right next to the hydraulic line I had tightened only partially. When the heavy truck dropped, the pressure spike in the hydraulic line was instantaneous. Pop! The hydraulic coupling at the base of the lift didn't just leak, it exploded. A high-pressure stream of cherry-red transmission fluid sprayed across the shop floor like arterial spray, drenching Jason from head to toe. The pressure loss was catastrophic. The 10-ton truck above him didn't float down gently. With the safety latches disabled, it entered free fall. Jason screamed. He slipped on the slick fluid, scrambling backward on his hands and knees like a crab.
I said calmly, "just like you missed with the brake line." Vince, realizing the chaos was attracting attention, made a move for the back door. He didn't get far. Big Bear stepped into his path. Bear didn't throw a punch. He just grabbed Vince by the lapels of his leather jacket and slammed him against the cinder block wall. "You sit," Bear growled. "Cops are 2 minutes out." Sirens wailed in the distance. They were closing fast. I had triggered the silent alarm under the counter the moment I pulled out the VHS tape. Jason tried to stand up, but his expensive sneakers had no traction on the oil. He slid and fell back down. He looked at me, weeping. "Dad, help me! It was Vince. He made me do it. I had to. He was going to hurt me." "So you decided to kill me instead?" I walked over to him, careful where I stepped. "I made a promise to your mother, Jason. I promised to protect you from the world, but I never promised to protect you from yourself." The front doors burst open. "Police! Nobody move!" Officer Miller, a good kid I've fixed squad cars for, rushed in with 2 deputies. They took in the scene instantly. Big Bear holding the loan shark, the terrified man covered in oil, the dropped truck, and the mechanic standing over it all with a wrench. "It's over, Miller." I pointed at the VHS tape still playing on the monitor. "Attempted murder, conspiracy, and tampering with a safety device." They cuffed Vince first.
He went quietly, glaring at Jason the whole time. Then Miller walked over to Jason. He helped him up, not out of kindness, but to spin him around and cuff him. "You have the right to remain silent," he recited. As they dragged Jason out, he looked back at me. His face was a mask of hydraulic fluid and tears. "I just wanted the money," he screamed. "You're old. You don't even use the money. Why didn't you just sell?" I looked at him. I thought about the Chevelle on the cliff edge. I thought about Linda. "Because this shop isn't money, son. It's work, something you never understood." They put him in the car. The shop fell silent. Bear walked over and handed me a shop rag. "Hell of a mess, Wrench." "Yeah," I wiped the splatter from my cheek, "but it's nothing a little degreaser can't fix." 6 months have passed since that day. The lawyers tell me Jason is looking at 15 years. The premeditation with the brake line, combined with the evidence found in his car, buried him. Vince got hit with racketeering charges thanks to evidence found in his car. I didn't sell the shop. The developer called back a week later with a higher offer, but I hung up. I did, however, make one change. I hired a new apprentice. His name is Danny. He's 19. He was caught stealing hubcaps last year because he needed money for his mom's rent. The judge, Judge Reynolds, the man whose Cadillac I saved, called me. He asked if I'd give the kid a chance instead of jail time. Danny showed up early his first day. He swept the floors without being asked. He listens. He wants to learn. Yesterday, I handed him a torque wrench and showed him how to set the specs on a head gasket. His eyes lit up. He respects the machine. And the best part? He hates computers. I'm 63 now. My hands still ache when it rains. I miss Linda every day. But when I unlock the front door every morning and smell the grease and old coffee, I don't feel tired. I feel useful. They say you can't choose your family. Maybe that's true, but you can certainly choose who holds the flashlight for you. And looking at Big Bear drinking coffee in the corner and Danny wrenching on a radiator, I think I built a pretty good one. Don't let people tell you to retire just because you've got gray hair. Don't let them push you aside for a quick buck. Wisdom is the one tool they can't buy at a hardware store. And if someone tries to cut your brakes, make sure you have a backup plan, or at least a really heavy wrench. This is John Vengeance. If you're glad the lazy stepson got a grease bath instead of a payday, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories of blue-collar justice. Stay safe, drive slow, and always check your brake lines.